with the emergence of drones, especially on the commercial side, whether it's UAS traffic management, UTM, where we want to fly them at low altitudes, they're very challenging targets to detect and track with current systems that are out there.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 111. Ever wonder if we're getting closer to integrating drones into the national airspace? Then you're going to enjoy hearing from today's guest. Craig Marcinkowski is the Director of Strategy and Business Development for Gryphon Sensors, an SRC company. Gryphon develops commercial sensor systems for the safe integration of unmanned aircraft systems into the National Airspace System, or the NAS. Leveraging 6 decades of expertise in radar and electronic surveillance sensor research, the company provides innovative multi-spectrum solutions in the drone security and UAS integration markets. Gryphon Sensors is one of the companies that is working with the FAA on NAS integration. The company is involved in 2 FAA Pathfinder projects. In addition, Gryphon is also involved with Project UAS Secure Autonomous Flight Environment, or the USAFE project, and NASA's UAS Traffic Management Program, or UTM. Earlier this year, Gryphon demonstrated Skylight, a system that integrates a diverse sensor suite to track objects. A wide variety of drones were flown at the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport to test the capability of the system to detect, track, classify, and display threats. Craig is here to talk about the Skylight system, the demonstration project, the work that Gryphon Sensors is doing to safely integrate drones into the national airspace, and he'll give us a glimpse of what's happening with this critical FAA initiative. So let's pick up the interview where I asked Craig to introduce himself.
Yeah, hey Randy, thanks for having me. Craig Marcinkowski with Gryphon Sensors. Been working at Gryphon for a few years now, Director of Strategy and Business Development.
Thanks, Craig. Now, just so everybody knows, could you briefly tell us about Gryphon Sensors and what it does?
Gryphon Sensors, we make systems that detect and track small UAS, drones, or other objects in the airspace, and we're focused on a couple of markets, drone security, so maybe detection and tracking around critical infrastructure like airports and other places, and then also on the UAS integration side, helping to enable beyond visual line of sight flying by clearing the airspace with some of our sensors for other non-cooperatives that may be out there in the airspace.
Now, isn't Gryphon Sensors just a few years old, having been spun out by a larger company?
Yes, exactly. So we're an SRC company, and SRC has been around for, I think, 60 plus years now, and they're a not-for-profit R&D company mainly focused on Department of Defense, and they've been doing a lot of work in the drone space, specifically around radars and electronic warfare and other areas there. And we spun out of there in 2014, specifically for the commercial UAS market, UAS traffic management, UTM applications, and then also drone security, more for the commercial space versus the Department of Defense.
I recently read an article on Gryphon Sensors' new product called Mobile Skylight. What is Mobile Skylight all about?
And kind of looking at those 2 markets like we talked about, UAS traffic management, enabling beyond visual line of sight flying, and then also drone security, being able to look in the airspace for anything that's out there. Basically, we took our product, which is Skylight in the market for that, and put it into a mobile package. So if you would think on the UAS traffic management side, everything you need to do to conduct a beyond visual line of sight UAS traffic management system will be in the self-contained mobile Skylight system that we've developed. It's built off of a Mercedes Sprinter van platform, if you will, self-leveling system. It has 30-foot telescoping mast with different sensor suites that you can put up on the mast, cameras, spectrum sensing, and radars. All of that's connected via a secure mesh network for communications. An example mission could be if you had maybe a search and rescue mission and you drove your mobile UTM system out to site, and maybe you put the mast up and you clear the airspace with your radar. I mean, you're good to fly, and this is obviously all coordinated with the FAA, and conduct your beyond visual line of sight search and rescue mission, bring your craft back to the mobile system, pack up and you're on your way to your next event, if you will. So that's, an example of a ConOp with that, but everything is within one mobile contained unit. You could also take that mobile Skylight system, maybe to a security event, maybe the Super Bowl or something else, bring it into the event, monitor the airspace, and notify other security personnel if they need to take action.
Can it also be used by a company planning to fly beyond visual line of sight, say a delivery company?
Another great example. Yeah, there's lots of different BVLOS use cases we've been exploring, but absolutely, if somebody wanted to leverage the system for that type of application, could absolutely do that.
Now, Gryphon Sensors recently completed a demonstration project in Dallas. Can you tell us about that?
DFW was the CRADA testing that we conducted with the FAA, and they were evaluating a number of different technologies out there for detection and tracking of drones around airports. And we had our Skylight system there. That was more of a fixed installation with distributed sensors on the location there, radars, spectrum sensing, and optics cameras to detect and track drones. Our mobile Skylight system, our first one, has just been delivered actually, and we're doing assessment and checkout of that system right now. And first deployment and testing of that will probably be later this summer. So that's where we are in the mobile Skylight timeframe right now.
So to be clear, there's a fixed technology called Skylight, which was the subject of the test in Dallas, and a mobile version of that same technology.
Correct, yeah. So we had Skylight deployed down there, and now we have a mobile concept, if you will, to take it on the move.
Do the test results give you a high degree of confidence in the ability of the system to track and manage the airspace?
Absolutely, and part of the architecture of Skylight, having the multiple sensor approach is what really helps us and gives us the confidence from a probability of detection standpoint, from a security application. So talking about the CRADA work that we just did with the FAA down at the airport there, we're using radar as a broad search sensor to look through the airspace for anything that's moving out there. And then we're also using spectrum sensing, RF detection equipment to look for comms links coming off of craft or controllers on the ground. So when you start layering that information together, radar, spectrum sensing, you can really get a high level of confidence that maybe a radar detection out there correlated with communication signals coming off of that you really have a drone there. And then you put final optics on it to identify the level of potential threat you could have in an airport. Is it just a hobbyist coming through with a camera on the bottom of it, or is it maybe a bad actor with a more serious payload, and that may necessitate a different type of security response?
How were the test cases selected?
The FAA was responsible for all the test cases that were run out there, and there were a variety of different types of testing craft that were run out there.
Now, there are other companies working on managing the airspace. How does the approach used by Gryphon Sensors differ from these other approaches?
You're spot on, Randy. There's a lot of different people coming into the space right now. A lot of them on the security side, but some maybe on the UTM integration side. I think what's unique about Gryphon's approach, we're playing in both markets, the integration and the security side, and it's the multi-sensor approach using radar, camera, spectrum sensing. There's some companies out there that are beginning to get into the multi-sensor approach as well. I think what's a little unique about the spectrum sensors and radars that we have as well, and really why Gryphon was formed, is we've designed these systems and sensors from the ground up, and they've been optimized. Every design trait and optimization has been made for the detection and tracking of small UAS. So we're not taking maybe off-the-shelf sensors that they're already out there, maybe in military inventory or other places for ground surveillance and other things, and just modifying them to look for drones. These systems are designed specifically for this mission set.
I think ideally we would want every major airport to have this type of traffic management system. Where are we in terms of rolling this technology out on a widespread basis?
So right now, the FAA has been leading the charge here, and they're doing a great job, and that was part of the CRADA here. First, they said, hey, if we're going to potentially, have a national program and roll this out at airports, we want to understand the state of the current technology that's out there. So they went and evaluated a number of companies. We were one of them as part of this CRADA. And, they're doing, I believe, some final reports and analysis right now, and that could lead to some potential programs coming down the road here in the next couple of years for how this gets rolled out at airports.
Is there an overall design of what a national system might look like, or is that still in development?
We're waiting for clarity from the FAA on how that will look and come out. We're hoping to hear about what that program could look like here shortly.
So you've successfully demonstrated the Skylight system, and you have a planned deployment of the mobile Skylight. What other things are in the works?
Nice thing for us is, we're playing in a number of markets, that being on the security and the integration side. So it's really, wide scale. If you look at the types of applications out there, especially even on the integration side, a project that we've been participating in is another one of the FAA Pathfinders or CRADA programs with assisting BNSF, where they're flying beyond visual line of sight to inspect rail track with drones. and they're using our ground radar as the primary sensor to deconflict the airspace or look for any non-cooperatives that could be in the way out there. They use the ground radar to clear the airspace and say, you're clear to fly. And that's been part of their safety case for flying beyond visual line of sight. So we've been supporting that effort. And then we've been the lead on a project in the state of New York called Project USAFE, and that stands for UAS Secure Autonomous Flight Environment. It's a UAS integration program, and there's a number of flavors to that, whether it's on the integration or the security side that we've been supporting. One of the hallmarks of this program is they're building a 50-mile UTM, UAS traffic management corridor in the state of New York. New York, the governor has funded this effort between Syracuse and Gryphon International Airport, which is one of the 7 UAS test sites. And as part of that, there's beyond visual line of sight use cases that will be validated over the next couple of years in that corridor. And our radars are being installed as we speak to instrument the first phase of that corridor, which is out near Gryphon International Airport. In parallel, the data that's generated from those systems will also be used for security applications around the airports and other things within the corridor. So that's a really exciting project we've been leading up and we'll continue to work on here going forward.
It sounds like your sensors are primarily for the heavy commercial industry users. Is there anything available for the smaller consumer or the smaller commercial entities that just might be interested in understanding the situation around their own assets?
It's interesting. So, right now the main customers we've been working with, whether it's the FAA and NASA on the UTM side, FAA around airports, there's commercial companies and entities that we've been working with on private security, whether it's at corporations or maybe VIP security for certain events, coming in and providing surveillance for a short period of time or maybe more permanent fixed installations at some of these types of companies. Another interesting model that we're looking at is if we install systems in a certain area, can people subscribe to a data service to see what's around them in that space so they don't necessarily have to bear the cost of owning and maintaining equipment, just buying data as a service. So that we're looking at that right now as well, but there's absolutely the possibility for that.
In the short time that Gryphon Sensors has been around, are there any lessons or trends that you can share with us about what you've learned?
Yeah, there's been many. Some of the interesting ones, just getting to go to a lot of these UAS shows and conferences, whether it's on the UTM side or the security side over the last 4 or 5 years now. There was this trend that seemed to really bash the FAA. The FAA is not letting us get access to the airspace. They're not helping us. They're not doing this. And I think there's been a total shift over the last 18 months to 2 years now. The FAA being very cooperative. If you look at the Pathfinder programs, if you look at what we're doing with Project USAFE in the state of New York, FAA is supportive. The FAA has been saying, bring us solutions, bring us projects out there that you're working on to help solve beyond visual line of sight or other things like that. And they said, involve us from the beginning. Show us the type of data you want to collect on your program. And, they've been very supportive and proactive in the projects we've been working on. So I think that's a very important shift in trend that's been happening in the space here, over the time for sure.
That's interesting because some say that the FAA is moving too slow or is bogged down by committees or caught up with some other big issues. But you're not seeing that from your perspective.
I guess everybody can always say we want more and we want faster, but if you look at the rate of change and improvement, cooperative, proactive stance from the FAA over the last couple of years, and at least on the projects we've participated in, we've been getting the support we need since Project USAFE in the state of New York. It's on us as an industry now to really get that project moving. They've been supportive. We need to now bring them data as part of safety cases for beyond visual line of sight flying and say, here's the data we collected, FAA. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving with these safety cases. But we've been getting the support we need.
What do you think has to happen, or what decisions have to be made for us to begin seeing some of the systems that you're working on really move forward?
We'll look at the two different spaces. So on the security side, right, even deploying systems like this around airports. People are like, how come these aren't deployed everywhere yet? And, the FAA said, we're going to evaluate the technology. If you're going to put some of this equipment in a very complex airspace environment, they want to make sure they're putting in safe systems that don't interfere with other communication or navigation equipment that they already have at airports. So that just seems like a normal, natural approach to make sure they're putting in something that's safe, evaluating the level of capability before you just say, hey, we're going to roll out a national program at all these airports and make it a free-for-all. So you can see that evolution happening, but you can see congressional language and other things coming out, people saying, hey, we want to put this equipment in so we can make sure that we know what's happening around airports. So you see that progression happening, and that's, technology's at a certain state. We'll start deploying it, getting evaluated. I'm sure there'll be pilot programs or other things, maybe at some airports to start to evaluate it. They'll identify gaps, and technology will fill those gaps and keep it moving. On the UAS traffic management side, UTM, NASA's been leading that to date. There's been a number of events, TCL1, TCL2, technical capability level demonstrations, where they're showing increasing level of capability out there as we continue to demonstrate that and validate it on projects like Project USAFE in the state of New York, improve the viability of the systems, especially for beyond visual line of sight flight. I'm sure there'll be more opportunity to sell that on the market once you prove its viability. So I think the technology is there. Now you have to prove it to the agencies and the regulators who will, allow you to deploy it.
Do you guys get involved at all from the standpoint of making the system hack-proof, for lack of a better term? Because drone security seems to be gaining some interest these days.
Yeah, so our own sensors and systems and the way they communicate, absolutely. On the comms link side, craft and other things within a UTM system, I'm sure that'll be a very important requirement to get levied on some of these systems to make sure they have, certain levels of cybersecurity within them.
So what's on the horizon, Craig? Any special announcements that we haven't already covered?
I think for us, the things we're just really excited about, obviously with the rollout of this mobile UTM system, getting that operational up here on the USAFE program and other initiatives throughout the country. We're really excited to get through the CRADA down with the FAA for airport detection and security and seeing where that goes from here for a national program. And then just us personally, Gryphon, as a company, the amount of inquiries we're getting on the UTM and security side from around the globe have been unbelievable, to say the least. And, we appreciate you allowing us to get our message out there. And some of these projects we've had the opportunity to work on have really helped us get our name out there. And the amount of opportunities and inquiries we've been getting are major validation of where this market is going.
Yeah, maybe you could expand on that a little by describing the role that Gryphon Sensors can play in the overall marketplace.
Yeah, so I think what's unique about Gryphon and where we're trying to play in the market is we provide the unique data in the airspace. So there's this low altitude area, which really wasn't that important in air traffic management before. If you think about traditional radars, people usually say, hey, I'm flying below the deck. I'm flying below normal radar coverage. Usually radars look to see large craft, above 2,000 feet. With the emergence of drones, especially on the commercial side, whether it's UAS traffic management, UTM, where we want to fly them at low altitudes, they're very challenging targets to detect and track with current systems that are out there. So there's this area of airspace where we're specialized in seeing these low, slow-flying targets. And our ability to see those and where we've invested in sensors to do that, two main markets, drone security. So if somebody wants this, hey, I want a situational awareness around my area for security, the data we can provide them could be of use. And then all these other people looking to fly beyond visual line of sight within UAS traffic management are also interested in that data as they go to the FAA for a safety case to say, I want to prove a safety case to fly beyond visual line of sight. So I think to kind of sum it up, we're offering unique data, three-dimensional data, low altitude that's really not available right now on the marketplace.
With the FAA being responsible for the national airspace, I can see where that kind of data would be important to test out systems that they're hoping to deploy down the road.
Yeah, the FAA's got a tough job. They have the most complex, diverse airspace in the world, and it's also the safest. So when they want to start conducting other types of missions, whether it's drone flights, commercial UAS aviation beyond visual line of sight within that airspace system, there's a lot of considerations that need to be made for how they do this. And it's going to be a very data-driven approach. And it's on us as an industry to prove to them that what we're doing is safe and secure.
So Craig, as we close, what's your view of the drone industry today? And what might we look forward to in the future?
Randy, thanks so much for the time to be here today. And if you look at what happened over the last 2 years and how much progress has been made, I'm just really optimistic about where we're headed. You look at the companies who are in the space, investing heavily, whether it's Intel, Amazon, Google, and many others. And you can see everybody collaborating together, the FAA behind this, NASA, and other agencies to get drones out there safely, securely, and mobilize all the utility that you can get from them and realize all the economic potential of this massive industry. It's really exciting, and I couldn't be more optimistic.
That's it for episode 111 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed listening to Craig Marcinkowski of Gryphon Sensors. I want to thank Craig for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Gryphon Sensors or want to connect with Craig, check out the website at gryphonsensors.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. Thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.